You step into a dim hall of flickering torches, and immediately a tension crackles in the air as two primal forces approach: fire and water, flame and abyss. Stay until the end, because you'll witness what happens when two of the Zodiac's most volatile energies collide, and why sometimes nothing less than chaos seems inevitable. You don't just observe this meeting, you feel its pulse. You sense the weight in the breath between them. First, imagine one side, the fire, bold, raw, unrestrained. That is Aries, a warrior spirit born to charge, to conquer, to ignite. Aries doesn't whisper. Aries roars. Aries lives in the moment, moves fast, acts with urgency. Their presence is a spark, sudden, piercing, bright. They seize, they storm, they launch without always pausing to ask what comes next. Courage, yes. Impulse, often. Clarity, sometimes faster than reflection. Many who meet Aries feel the heat before they see the shape of what's coming. Now, on the opposite side, emerges the deep, still water, the hidden current, the silent abyss. That is Scorpio, intense, watching, holding secrets, feeling not just what lies on the surface, but what lies beneath, in shadows, in memory, in the unspoken. Scorpio understands the long game. They sense more than what's obvious. They trust the stir of undercurrents. Scorpio doesn't rush forward. Scorpio waits, watches, studies, and when the moment is right, they strike. But often not with fire, with depth, with emotional gravity, with a weight that lingers long after the first shock. When Aries and Scorpio meet, you might expect fireworks, but what you often get is a storm. Second, understand what draws them together. There is magnetic force, a mutual pull rooted in raw power. Aries sees mystery, sees the unknown, the hidden depths, and feels drawn to explore it. Scorpio sees fire, sees that impulsive blaze, that bold rhythm, and senses both danger and irresistible vitality. They share a primal ruler, the ancient god of war and drive, Mars. That shared planetary lineage gives them a bridge, a common language of power, will, and desire, even if the dialects differ. When these forces converge, there's potential for transformation, for awakening, for a union that pushes both beyond ordinary boundaries. Aries can challenge Scorpio to surface, to act. Scorpio can teach Aries to feel deeper than impulse. They can push each other to extremes, to greatness, or to destruction. Third, yet that same energy makes them combustible. Aries demands freedom, immediacy, spontaneity, movement. Scorpio demands depth, loyalty, emotional weight, sometimes secrecy. When Aries tries to fly free, Scorpio may tighten the grip. When Scorpio retreats inward, Aries may lash out in confusion. Their communication, a battlefield sometimes. Aries speaks in sparks, blunt, direct, raw. Scorpio speaks in whispers, subtle, layered, guarded. Attempts at honesty may be perceived differently. Aries may see silence as coldness. Scorpio may see bluntness as recklessness. Power struggles loom, not always physical or material, but emotional, psychological. Who takes the lead? Who controls the pace? Who decides what truth looks like? Scorpios tend to mold the emotional terrain. Aries tends to bulldoze through it, and underneath, trust eaters. Scorpio may suspect betrayal. Aries may feel suffocated. Scorpio seeks emotional depth and lasting investment. Aries may crave freedom and fresh starts. But here's what many don't see at first. This tension, this friction, it can forge something powerful. Fourth, the alchemy when done consciously. If Aries learns to slow, to sense, to listen, to respect the weight of silence, and Scorpio learns to open, to risk vulnerability, to share the hidden rooms of their soul, to allow light in, then what emerges is not chaos, but transformation. A phoenix rising from clashing flames and deep waters. A strange synergy where fire ignites water's hidden power, and water tempers fire's wildness. They become two halves of one whole, movement guided by depth, passion softened by awareness, action rooted in meaning. This union isn't for the faint-hearted. It demands courage, not just to love, but to evolve. Both must confront their own inner storms. Aries their recklessness, Scorpio their fears. Both must risk heartbreak to reach authenticity. If you want to call it love, it will burn. If you call it growth, it will consume. If destiny cares to test them, redemption, pain, rebirth, all may rise from this meeting. But be warned, nothing stays the same after Aries meets Scorpio. Even silence speaks differently. Even breath tastes different. Even time moves at a different pace. You can feel it now. The firelight reflected in water that does not flicker, but shifts slowly, almost imperceptibly. Second act begins. You, as the witness, the voyeur, the one who feels the tremors between them. Notice what happens once the initial flash of attraction fades. Aries doesn't need long to make their move. Bold, swift, unavoidable, spark to flame. Scorpio doesn't show the surface stir. But beneath, something moves. Deep currents awaken. Scorpio senses. Scorpio calculates. Scorpio breathes the undercurrent. What had been curiosity becomes urgency. What had been unspoken fascination becomes a silent pact. Unacknowledged, but heavy. This isn't a casual dance. This is gravity. On one side, there's raw impulse. Decisions made in the swirl of adrenaline, in the surge of passion, in the roar of desire. Aries demands immediacy. Aries wants now. On the other side lies depth, emotional mortar, slow-building tension, the pull of unseen depths. Scorpio waits, probes, watches. Scorpio doesn't rush, Scorpio doesn't shout, Scorpio whispers, but the undercurrent of their emotion feels louder than any roar. Sometimes the pull is magnetic. Scorpio draws Aries into mystery, into secrets, into hidden rooms of psyche, into a space where fire meets shadow. Aries feels alive, challenged, seen. Scorpio feels something. Power, transformation, unveiling. And so they orbit each other, dangerously close, dangerously aligned. But orbiting too close to fire and water can scorch or drown. Third, understand the fault lines, because intensity, when untempered, fractures. Communication becomes a battleground. Aries speaks blunt truth, open, loud, undeniable. Scorpio speaks in half tones, in guarded glances, in the weight of silence. Aries sees silence as coldness. Scorpio senses brashness as threat or shallow noise. A simple disagreement about trust, about freedom, about boundaries can ignite an inferno. Scorpio's needs for loyalty, emotional depth, security. Aries' needs for freedom, movement, spontaneity. When they collide, jealousy, possessiveness, impulsive reactions, silent withdrawal, all become weapons. Power becomes a subtle war. Neither wants to back down easily. Both want their autonomy. Both see compromise as weakness unless they learn otherwise. Trust can buckle. Scorpio may demand emotional proof. Aries may recoil at demands, feel trapped. Scorpio may feel neglected, misunderstood. Aries may feel suffocated, judged. In many stories of this union, what ignites in ecstasy ends in pain. But, and this is crucial, only if you allow the chaos to drive the ship. Fourth, when this collision is met with awareness, with conscious choices, something extraordinary can bloom. Because, what if you learn to speak both languages? The fires roar and the waters hush. What if Aries slows down, senses the currents instead of rushing through the tides? What if Scorpio opens, allows the water to clear, reveals the hidden glimmer beneath the dark? Then the dance changes. The flame warms the water cools the flame, the fire becomes refined, deep, molten, illuminating. The water becomes not just deep, but current, alive, moving, vital. What emerges is not destruction, but transformation. Aries becomes tempered, Scorpio becomes expressed. Together, if they choose, they build a forge and a hidden well. A forge to burn through illusions, fears, doubts. A well to cleanse wounds, to heal, to regenerate. This kind of union demands more than attraction. It demands courage. It demands vulnerability. It demands the willingness to descend into the abyss and rise through the flame. Because when fire meets water, one does not simply extinguish the other. One can transmute the other into something new, something stronger. But make no mistake, that path is treacherous. If trust is shaky, if communication is avoided, if impulses go unchecked, if jealousy, secrecy, control, and fear are allowed to steer, then the fire consumes, the water drowns, and chaos, inevitable, as the title said, becomes not a catalyst for rebirth, but a tomb of ashes and regret. Yet, if you are brave enough, truthful enough, if you let fire burn and water flow, you might just forge something immortal. If this hits close to home, if you've ever felt the sting of passion clashing with depth, or the pull of instinct colliding with emotion, drop a comment with the image or feeling that resonated most. It helps me know which angle to explore next. Fifth, the turning point. The moment when choices matter more than impulses. Imagine nights where the silence hums, where neither speaks, but both feel the tremor under the skin. Aries, restless, burning with unspent energy, craving movement. Scorpio, still, watchful, longing for connection, craving vulnerability but fearing exposure. In those nights, everything hangs on honesty. Aries must ask, do I want to run free or stay to burn with you? Scorpio must ask, do I trust you enough to lower the walls or keep guarding the cave? If either answers truthfully, the hellish path may shift into rebirth. If they lie to themselves, the storms will come, because fire demands oxygen, water demands space. In that tension, there is possibility for rebirth or collapse. Sixth, envision the outcome. Not idealized, not naive, but real. In the best case, Aries and Scorpio become co-architects of a new world. A world where passion isn't reckless but guided, where depth isn't heavy but flowing, where love isn't escape but metamorphosis. They heal old scars together, challenge old habits, grow, not just individually, but as a single entity. They learn the language of compromise, not as surrender, but as fusion. They create a sanctuary where fire warms without burning and water nourishes without drowning. But it requires work, not just once, every day. Every conflict becomes a crossroads, every fight a chance to rebuild, every silence an invitation to connect. Seventh, the cautionary, because cosmic chemistry doesn't come with safety nets. If either clings to old fears, fear of betrayal, fear of suffocation, fear of loss of identity, then watch for the collapse. Emotional wounds can cut deep, possessiveness can choke, impulses can turn destructive. What once felt like attraction becomes chains. What once felt like intimacy becomes resentment. This isn't romance. This isn't comfort. This is survival. And survival, if not tended, becomes resentment. So when Aries meets Scorpio, you must choose destruction or alchemy, death by flame, or rebirth from ashes. Eighth, the truth you must hold on to. Intensity can be your greatest ally or your worst enemy. The same fire that creates light can also burn worlds down. The same water that gives life can drown everything. It all depends on who wields them, who guides them, who bears their weight. You, the unwitting spectator, or you, the conscious participant, because once you invite fire and water to dance, there is no going back to calm seas. You will feel the tremors, the pull, the craving. You will know the cost, and you will understand why. Sometimes, chaos feels inevitable. Or, if you're wise, why chaos becomes the doorway to transformation. You feel it now, the residue of their collisions, ember dust hanging over water, shadows trembling in firelight. Ninth, the undercurrent you rarely see at first glance, the long-term emotional cycles that rise when Aries meets Scorpio. Aries moves in bursts, swift, sharp, burning bright. Scorpio moves in tides, slow, deep, shifting beneath what you see. At first, the burst may dazzle, the blaze, intoxicating. Yet water remembers. Water does not forget what fire left behind. Scorpio carries memory. Scorpio feels undercurrents long after the spark has faded. So over time, unless the fire learns patience and the water learns light, scars accumulate. Small fights, sharp words, impulses unleashed, silence that freezes deeper than anger, distrust that seeps into the spaces between words. Neither intends cruelty, but both carry weapons forged by instinct. 10th, the signs that this union is healing, not destroying. You notice them when the flame does not burn out of control, when fire warms without scorching, when water washes without drowning. You see it in the pauses, when Aries slows, when Scorpio speaks instead of brooding, when vulnerability slips through the cracks. You feel it in the air, a strange safety, a fragile truce, a softening. You hear it in the tone, quieter, measured, honest. No games, no power plays. You sense it in the silence, comfortable, not tense. When trust is offered, not demanded. When spontaneity is balanced with commitment. When passion is anchored by respect, then Phoenix, or something like it, may rise from the ashes and currents. 11th, the psychological excavation. Because relationships between intense souls tend to dig deep, sometimes too deep. Scorpio carries hidden rooms, chambers of memory, of longing, of fear, of loss. They do not show all doors. Some remain locked. Aries pushes forward, seeks action, seeks clarity, seeks expression. When Aries enters Scorpio's hidden halls, it feels like a raid, a demolition, a plunge into darkness without a map. Scorpio might recoil, might shut doors, might erect walls, or, if Scorpio trusts, might slowly open a corridor, invite light in, let fire flicker over ancient corners. But to navigate those corridors, Aries must learn to be quiet, learn to wait, learn to respect what lies there. And Scorpio must learn to breathe new air, let in movement, let in warmth, let in risk. If both succeed, they unearth ghosts, heal wounds, let in light. If either fails, ghosts haunt, wounds deepen, walls grow thicker, silence becomes a tomb. 12th, the mythic possibility, union as transformation. Because the meeting of fire and water and of Aries and Scorpio is not just about romance or conflict. It's an alchemical experiment. Fire burning through illusions, water dissolving fears, ash and memory blending into soil for new growth. Chaos, not as accident, but as crucible. In that crucible, identities may fracture, old skins may burn, but from the heat, from the pressure, something raw and real might emerge. A partnership forged in truth, hardened by struggle, tempered by respect, grounded by shared vulnerability. You, the witness to this forging. You, the one who feels the tremors, the heat, the pull, the silence. And you, the one who understands this is not for the faint-hearted, because once fire and water meet, you cannot unfeel, you cannot unburn, you cannot unweave the pattern they stitch into your soul. Yet maybe, if you choose, you can rise from the chaos, a phoenix born of flame and flood, strong, honest, alive. This story, the meeting of Aries and Scorpio, doesn't promise comfort. It doesn't promise easy triumph. It promises reckoning, depth, transformation. It may injure, it may scorch, it may drown, but for those who dare to enter the hall, who dare to walk through hidden corridors, who dare to face the fire and the depths, it also offers the possibility of becoming more than either flame or water alone. If you want more deep dives like this, subscribe and ring the bell.